Well, I guess we got our intro. And welcome to another episode of the Miles Offside podcast, where we talk a little bit of football and a whole lot of nothing. My name is Oscar Puente, also known as Footy from Afar, and with me, as always, is my co-host Chuck Bailey.
Come and see bitter and listen to us.
Okay. And laughing in the background with us, as always, is super producer Ian Stimson.
We've got to stop doing these Alan Partridge and Office references. I feel for Oscar. It's not fair. It's not fair.
How's everybody doing this week?
Not good. I'm rough. Really rough.
Wow, what happened?
Well, I'm back on my old ironing board, coming back from holiday. It's not a good start. Not enough room. We got back home. The dog's not well. She's been having anti-nausea injections, antibiotics, all sorts. My son's not well. And in case we've got any new listeners who are under any impression that I'm not a complete dickhead, I've started doing meal replacements with that Huel stuff. Have you seen that?
No, I have not. Is that the same as Soylent?
Yeah, sort of. So it's like a sort of liquid, like complete nutritional food replacement.
Yeah.
And
same
I mean,
thing, same idea.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll give you a layman's description because I know you're not scientists, but apparently, if you just put liquid in, you only get liquid out. I am not in a good way. You're
actually not the only person on the pod who's done something as stupid as that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How did you know? What have I done?
Chuck's immediately assumed it's him. Yeah.
Fantastic. Always good when it's not me.
There's a thing called Soylent, which is the same thing. It's like this awful powder. Some weird engineer guy at Caltech was like, I don't want to have to eat anymore and leave my laboratory and talk to people. So he invented this paste powder thing that you turn into a shake, and it has all the nutrition you need.
Yep.
And I tried in January, just for shits and giggles. Shits being the more
the operative word.
Yeah, the giggles were coming from everyone else.
Yeah, to subsist on it for a whole month. I made it about 2 weeks, and I was just getting like really sick. And I was like,
"You did 2 weeks with only that?"
Yeah, no food, no solid food.
Wow. See, I haven't been able to do that. Like every other meal, essentially, I've been replacing, and yeah, I'm in a bad way.
Yeah, I just did it to see if I could, and I could not. Like, there's people who like have done it for a whole year too, which is fucking insane.
You always get weird diets like that. There was a girl that, I mean, I didn't work with her, but she worked at like my old place of work who got in a newspaper because she went on the baby food diet.
Oh.
She'd just eat like tubs of baby food and have like 3 or 4 of those a day, and she lost a shitload of weight.
Is that going to be you in a few weeks?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I can't wait to eat pudding baby food. And there's this new thing now called like Ella's Kitchen or something like that. They're like these fancy like little pouches that are just pureed like fruit and veg. It's great.
Yeah,
that just sounds delicious.
They are. It's like pureed bananas and apples, just like yum in my face.
You're already eating them just in anticipation.
Your girlfriend's going to be like, the baby seems hungry, and you're just going to be ever-expanding waistline. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Nothing to do with that.
Not a clue.
Right. So, episode 13. So, this week, we will be going through some of the results from last week. We're going to try not to focus too much on just the top 6 teams. Get off the Mourinho talk and the Man City-Liverpool talk. So we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive on some mid-table teams, some strikers who might be having interesting seasons so far, a bit on the upcoming international break, and then, the usual segments at the end. How's that sound to you boys?
Yep, let's go.
Excellent. So let's start off, as usual, with the breaking news.
Ooh.
First story. Jose Mourinho reaches an agreement with the Spanish government for a tax evasion prison sentence that he is going to have suspended, but he pleaded guilty for $3.3 million in undeclared revenue when he was the Real Madrid manager. Does Jose Mourinho deserve to go to jail? Chuck?
I mean, it's the weird thing with Spain, isn't it? It happened to Lionel Messi, it happened to Cristiano Ronaldo, so they have this weird law where if it's going to be like under 2 years, it's a suspended sentence, and I think the sentence for tax fraud is 23 months as a standard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
no rich people going to jail.
I know, you imagine people going to jail or potentially serving in the military, which takes us to our second news story. Korea wins 2-1, I think. Or
2-1 in extra time.
Extra time. Yeah, 2 goals scored in extra time to save themselves in the final of the Asian Cup from having to do mandatory military service.
Amazing.
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited is Heung-min's son to not have to do that?
Oh my god, he was on his knees pounding the floor, like screaming, crying, smiling. It was unreal, and we were talking about it that day, and it was just the most surreal thing, and all of us, I think, ended up watching it.
Yeah, I watched the extra time.
It was on a stream, and you just surreal the fact that these guys are playing so that they don't have to go to war.
Yeah,
I think it's
I know.
so mental.
I had to explain that to like my 8-year-old, and he just couldn't wrap his head around it. I was like, no, if he loses this match, he has to join the army. It was just like, but his head exploded. He could not fathom why that would be the case.
You should threaten him with that from now on too. Like, if you don't finish your dinner, you have to join the army.
Yeah, he looked scared, so yeah, I could do it.
It's good parenting 101.
Yeah. So help me God, if you don't win Commonwealth Gold, I will send you down the mines.
Yeah.
Oh man, but that was like genuinely insane. Like watching that extra time, I was like, I was kind of rooting for it to go to penalty kicks, and then I was like, no, I'm a terrible person. Like,
that's so evil.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought if they'd lost, it would have been great if the military came on and just escorted them off the pitch straight away. Or like just shaved all their heads right then and there. Like, right, let's go, guys.
Yeah.
Do we know if was that the case for all of the team, or if some of them already served it, or what? I mean, we just hear about Son because he plays in the Premier League.
Idea. Yeah, I have no idea.
I didn't know whether the stakes were the same for the whole team. That was all.
I don't honestly think I could name another Korean player that's current. Like, I can name other Korean players that have played in the Premier League, but I don't know if they're on the team or not. So
yeah.
Well, it was the under-23s or something, wasn't it? That's why Son was in there, and you had to do.
How old is Son?
Actually, I don't know, but I'm just going by what it said on Bet365. It was really weird. It said Japan under-23 and Korea under-23.
Son got both assists in extra time, so I think he really had that extra motivation, and he really stepped his game up for that.
You'd think he'd just get exception for beating Germany at the World Cup or something. Like, that's more impressive than winning a gold at the Asia Games.
Yeah, I guess. Or just, being fantastic in the Premier League week in and week out. Like, it's hard to be that good. But either way, he's safe. He gets to come back. I'm sure Tottenham are really happy. Although, wonder what that'll mean for Lucas Moura's minutes. But
yeah,
we'll see.
It was the under-23 games. You're right, Chuck. And Korean military leaders are taking a look at the system now after the publicity that this has got. So might not be the case in the future.
Yeah, there was a bunch of stories coming out of other people who had taken extreme measures to not have to serve.
Yeah.
Like, you remember Gangnam Style?
Yeah.
Psy had to serve twice because he kept his music career going while he was serving, which is illegal. So they made him go back and do another year.
I thought you just meant because the military leaders had heard that song and thought, no, get him back.
Let's get him back.
No more review.
Yeah.
And there was some other pop star who had illegally gotten teeth removed to try to pretend that he had medical issues to get it. It was fucking hilarious. Not hilarious. It's horrible that they make them go to war, but
yeah, but it's not us, so it's funny.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Speaking of national teams, in the news, we have the Denmark team is going to have to name a futsal squad for their upcoming international friendlies and matches this break because there's a dispute with the players' union over the players refusing to sign a new deal with regards to commercial rights. And so they fired all the current players, including Christian Eriksen, Andreas Christensen, and other notable players from the Premier League and leagues across the world. So, can a futsal full 11 beat the Wales national team on September 9th?
I would like to ask, what is a futsal team?
Wait, do you not know what futsal is?
Is that like table football?
No.
Is it a table football team? Is the Danish table football team going to turn up and they're all going to stand in complete perfect lines and link arms and just try and kick the ball forward? Is that what's going to happen? Because if that is the case, I really want to fucking watch it.
I'm really excited to watch it because futsal players don't basically play any defense. They have no idea. Make sure, go like on YouTube after we're done recording and watch a bunch of futsal highlights. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's the game that Ronaldinho came up playing. It's like indoor soccer with a super, super dense, heavy ball. And they play on like a basketball court. And it's all about like fancy flicks and tricks and
skills
dribbling.
and yeah.
Okay. So how many people on a team in futsal?
Is it 5?
5? Yeah, I think it's 5.
So how big is the Danish futsal team if they can replace the Danish football team?
Well,
do they have enough players?
They got their A, their B team, and one of the C.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, gosh. So it's going to be interesting because, like, just Gareth Bale dribbling past a bunch of people who don't know how to space themselves out on a full-size field. Like, I could see Wales running the score up, like, 22-0 just because Gareth Bale on his own. What do you call a hat-trick of hat-tricks in one match? Is there even a name for that?
The Football Ramble always had, like, a system, didn't they, of how many goals, like, or was it, like, 5 was a glut or something, and they went up from there? I can't remember them, though.
I remember, I don't know if I'm imagining this, but I remember years ago it being called a milestone. Really? Like, actually, the name of 5... Obviously, like, a milestone is a marker of lots of things, but, like, 5 goals was called a milestone.
Really?
I don't know whether I'm just imagining that, or...
Yeah, we're both furiously Googling
tap it away, yeah.
Tap, quick. Someone let me know, please.
4 goals is called a haul. 5 is a glut. Oh, no, damn it. This is the Football Ramble on Twitter.
We're just repeating the Football Ramble. Brilliant.
Yep. Never mind. Yeah, I don't know. I know the history of why it's called a hat-trick, but I don't know what you call 4 goals.
Why is it called a hat-trick?
I read this once, but that when you scored 3 goals way the hell back in the day, you got an invitation to go to a fancy party at, like, the Lord's Manor, and you had to wear a top hat and, like, a coat tail and all that. And so they called it a hat trick, because if you scored 3, you got the invite to wear a hat.
Love it.
Did you have to do tricks with said hat?
Not that I know of.
But... Oh, okay.
Yeah, they got you like a performing monkey.
Yeah, like a magician.
Yeah.
What are you pulling out of the hat? And if you were Maurizio Sarri, you'd be pulling cigarettes out of the hat, because for our next news story, in an odd news segment, Maurizio Sarri has been eating cigarettes on the sideline. And so my question to you is eating cigarettes on the sideline worse for your stomach than the crazy thing that Stimmers has been doing? Chuck, go.
I mean, I don't understand it. I don't get it. Is he just eating cigarettes to try and get a nicotine kick? Is it because he really wants to smoke? Could he just substitute it with other things, like maybe just eat some chips or, have a sandwich?
Or nicotine gum, at least, or chewing tobacco.
Or nicotine gum, or just wear some patches. Like, he wears short sleeves. He's got plenty of arm space. Doesn't even have to roll his sleeves up. Just bang, patch on, crack on.
just do a Sherlock and put like 22 patches on his body.
But yeah, I can't tell if he's just eating cigarettes. Like, what the fuck?
I literally don't understand what he's trying to do. Like, that's not a thing. Like, I've never heard of anyone else ever eating a cigarette. Like, okay, so he's not allowed to smoke on the sideline. Makes sense. It's a football match. Like, they need their lungs. But how is the next best option to eat cigarettes? And is he taking the filters off? Like, why wouldn't he? I don't understand. I really don't understand.
I mean, obviously, with the indoor smoking ban came in a long time ago here, and you don't just see people just chowing down on 20 a day in the pubs. I don't understand it at all.
No, that's a bit weird. But if he just kept nipping out of the stadium to have a fag and coming back, that would look a bit weird as well. He's just out there, especially if Chelsea play Liverpool, because apparently Klopp smokes like 20, 30 a day as well.
Really?
Yeah, you don't see Klopp doing that. I mean, Klopp doesn't show the signs, because since he's had the Roberto Firmino teeth job done, and he's now got the day glow smile.
Yeah, or the Brendan Rodgers veneers.
Oh god.
What is it about Liverpool managers, I guess, or managers from Liverpool?
It's just terrifying.
Is that like a thing over there, that people in Liverpool just get their teeth done?
Wait, what managers from Liverpool? Brendan Rodgers isn't from Liverpool.
No. I meant managers who manage in Liverpool. So, like, he got his teeth done when he was at Liverpool.
It's Roberto
Jurgen
Firmino,
Klopp.
mate. He started a revolution.
Yeah, I guess. Let's see, what else do I have for news? Yes. For the first time since 2006, Lionel Messi will not finish in the top 3 of the FIFA Player of the Year voting. And in that year, in 2006, the top 3 were Cannavaro, Zidane, and Ronaldinho. Is this officially the end of the Messi era, or will he make a comeback next year for the Ballon d'Or?
I mean, you've got to figure the only reason he's not been included was because Argentina did shit at the World Cup. And Barcelona didn't really do anything in Europe last year, even though they won a double, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, Barca did do the double, but was Messi the big driving force behind that still?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
I agree.
still is in that team, and he will be. But yeah, it's just because it's decided on the glamour stuff like the Champions League, which obviously Real dominated so much, which is why at the Champions League draw and the awards that they did then, Real Madrid players won every position. So Keylor Navas won Best Goalkeeper, Sergio Ramos won Best Bastard, Best Defender, Luka Modric won Best Midfielder and Best Overall Player, and Ronaldo won Best Forward. So,
I mean, Modric is definitely deserved, and Ramos is the biggest bastard in football that I can think of.
oh God, it was so amazing. Not only the fact that he was sitting behind Mo Salah, but the fact that he touched him on the
Gives him a
shoulder
little
after
tap
he
on
won
the
the
shoulder.
award.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yes!
fantastic.
Oh, he's so good at it.
And then he put his feet up right on the chair next to him.
Yeah. And then spat in the back of his hair.
Yeah. Gave him a pat on the head.
Shaved a dick in the back of Salah's hair. He still hasn't noticed.
Oh, boy. Speaking of the Champions League draw, that was the last news story for the week. Champions League draw was done on Thursday, I believe. A couple of groups jump out. We have Atletico Madrid in the same group as Dortmund. So that might be interesting to see them clash. Tottenham got a bit of a hard draw with Barcelona, PSV Eindhoven, and Inter Milan. Inter have started to do much better in recent years than they had been for the last decade or so. Liverpool got fucked with Napoli, PSG. There's a good chance they don't get out of that group because Napoli are legit and PSG are legit.
Yeah, there's a big team gone from there. That'll be very interesting to watch.
Yep. And the flip side of that being that Man City finally got a decent draw because they've always had horrible draws in the Champions League. And they have Hoffenheim, Lyon, and Shakhtar, so they're clear favorites for that group.
No, they had a decent draw last year.
Did they?
I remember they had quite easy teams last year. 2017-18. Why is my computer so slow? This is taking far too long. I wish it would just work. Sorry.
Christmas music. I love it.
I fucking love Christmas.
I literally already played Christmas music last week.
Mate, I've been to 8 Christmas meetings and I've set up my festive display. Don't worry about it. It'll work.
Awesome. So we are a pro-Christmas podcast, I guess.
Ian?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% behind Christmas. I'll tell you,
Excellent.
I used to work at a shopping channel, and their Christmas started on August bank holiday, and I fucking hated Christmas for the sort of 3 or 4 years that I worked there. It was fucking horrible. By September, you were sick of it. And it took having a kid and him getting a bit older to actually rediscover Christmas, because fuck me, I hated it.
Oh, I've always been Christmas crazy. We decorated the week before Thanksgiving once because we were going to be going away for a little while, and I was like, well, I still need my 4 weeks of Christmas decorations in the house. So we decorated November 20th. And people would come over and be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you blasting Christmas music and everything is decorated and it's not even December yet?
Hell yeah.
My sister-in-law hates Christmas music, and I play it every chance I get when I'm
Christmas music is the tits.
Christmas music really is the tits. I have 500, I think, or 450 Christmas songs that I have paid for and downloaded on my iPod. I have a giant Christmas playlist. Actually, when we got married at the beginning of January, and our cocktail hour had Christmas music going.
Wow, you go in on things, don't you, Oscar? You really do.
Yeah, I don't do anything half-assed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't fuck about.
Clearly.
Anything worth doing is worth overdoing.
But to get back to the original point, Man City didn't... Last year they had Shakhtar and Feyenoord, and Napoli was the tough team. So they didn't have a bad draw then. But yeah, this one is just
Like, there's
It's
nobody in that group.
No, it's Shakhtar, Lyon, and Hoffenheim. Like,
Yeah, that's not anything. And United got Juventus and Valencia. And Young Boys. I love that team. I always forget they exist. And then
I had to Google, when I was doing tweets about this, I had to Google Young Boys Twitter. And I just felt so fucking wrong because I couldn't find the Twitter handle for it. I was like, oh, I'm going to have some knocks on the door.
Yeah.
This is not good.
Your targeted ads are going to be very, very strange. Isn't there a stadium called, like, the Wank Arena or something? Like,
Right.
I'm pretty sure
Googling.
it is. Yeah, definitely Google that.
Jesus Christ, Google's getting a pasting tonight. Yeah, definitely don't search Young Boys Wank Arena, guys. Please don't. I got away with just searching Young Boys Twitter, don't.
It's called the Wankdorf.
Oh, God.
It's called the Wankdorf. I'm not even making that up. Like, yeah. Young boys play at the Wankdorf. Like, come on, guys.
It's not Young Boys Stadium, is it?
I'm not making this up. Google it. It's called the Wankdorf. It's like Stade de Suisse Wankdorf, but everybody just calls it the Wankdorf.
Oh my god.
It's perfect.
God
It's too
bless
good.
you, Switzerland. God bless you.
IKEA, Swedish Fish, and BSC Young Boys playing at Wankdorf.
Stop saying it.
Yeah, dude. IKEA's Sweden.
That's true.
Are those different countries? God damn it. I always do this.
Oh, poor little pomegranate. He's fucking...
Yeah. Sweden, Switzerland, pomegranate, and grapefruit. No, not grapefruit. Eggplant. Eggplant. That's the one. Yeah. I'm fucking terrible at vegetables, man. I don't even know.
It's a fruit. Right.
We had this exact conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fruit. All right, that wraps it up for the news segment. 25 minutes in to our rapid fire news segment.
To be fair, you never introduced it as rapid fire this week, so you've got
That's
the get
true.
out of jail free card there.
And also,
There we go.
we should not do time checks when I'm going to cut out quite a lot.
So that should about do it for news for this week, which means that we can get to some more in-depth topics. I'll leave it up to you, Chuck. Do we want to talk about strikers first, or do we want to talk about mid-table teams?
Oh, for God's sake. Just start talking about how shit Benteke is, alright? Just get it over with.
So I'm not just going to pick on Benteke, because there's actually a bigger name on there that I think people should be more worried about and talking about. But let's go ahead and start with Benteke. You're the Palace fan.
Yeah.
You have said all along that he contributes more to the team than just goals, and so he should stay in the squad. But I guess my question to you is, at what point does his terrible finishing and the way that he's wasting good chances that they're creating become enough of an issue that you want to take him out?
Yeah, it is an issue. Like, the guy must have just zero confidence at the minute. Because even when he's getting great looks, like against Watford, if he'd have put the ball towards the corner or the side, he would have got a goal. As it is, he put it straight down the middle. Same against Southampton. He was, 3 yards out and headed it straight at McCarthy rather than going for a corner. Again, which, 2 seasons ago, he would have eaten those up. And so he definitely needs the confidence back, which I thought he would have got coming out of the end of last season. But I still think Palace, as a team as a whole, I don't think Hodgson's playing the strongest 11 still. I think Maya will start playing more. Zaha's out. Tompkins is out, and those two guys are massively crucial for us. Tompkins at the back for stability and Zaha with going forward. But yeah, Benteke, it's hard to keep defending him. I'm a very, very patient man when it comes to football because I just, I don't claim to know more than the people whose careers it is to pick these players and to play systems and things like that. But yeah, there has to come a point where he would get dropped. However, I don't think that Sirlot would be the answer at Palace.
Yeah, I don't know enough about him to say that he'd be a better striker necessarily. But to me, if I was a Palace fan or as a neutral, it's like to watch them create really good chances and then have Benteke be the person on the end of those chances. Like, even if he did a lot of good work in the build-up, someone needs to be putting those away.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing happened at the start of last season where they didn't score for 8 or 9 games or whatever it was, and then they finally scored against Chelsea, but it was an own goal. They weren't anywhere near one of the worst teams in the league that year. They were in, like, if I recall, they were in like 6th place for XG. But the problem was that all of that XG, someone has to be the person taking the shot.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're in a dangerous situation and you're the one taking the shot, but you can't finish, like, yeah, of course your team is going to underperform. It's kind of the inverse of David De Gea and how United were plus 15 on their X goals conceded last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Benteke, even when he was good, is what in the analytics community people call a high XG striker, which isn't what you would necessarily think. It's not someone who just creates a lot of XG. That's like the obvious thing, but it's specifically a striker who takes a lot of high XG shots and uses more the volume of shooting to put their goals in and to create the goals than as opposed to someone who overperforms their XG by scoring from deeper. And so
and it's also the person who's the focal point of the attack, especially nowadays there are so few teams that play with 2 people up front. So, as being the lone striker, you'll get into those situations where you'll have more chances. And I think sometimes, like we've said before, like XG meaning that teams are playing well or creating those chances. Exactly as you said, it can be a sign of the inverse and the fact that they've just got no one that can put away the chances. So it can be a negative thing and shows poor quality.
And it isn't always a negative thing, to be honest. Like, thinking back, I think the more sort of simplified version of it would be what people would call a poacher, right? Is that someone who only scores from very, very dangerous situations, and someone who needs a lot of looks at goal to put him away. So a notable example, other than Benteke in the past, is Gabriel Jesus. He's definitely falls into that category of a high XG striker. He consistently, quote-unquote, underperforms his XG, but it's just that he has so many shots and so many looks at goal from such dangerous situations that he's gonna score a lot of goals, even if he, like, misses some chances that other strikers would want to be putting away and not wasting. So for, like, last year, Jesus was plus 2.37 on his XG, which is a pretty significant amount because you figure a striker is going to score, even an elite striker is not, most of them don't go past 20. You'll have the occasional guy who's pushing towards 30, so 2.5 goals is a significant amount of goals. But no one would turn around and say that Jesus had a bad season. And already this year, Gabriel Jesus is plus 0.92, so he's a goal behind his XG, but again, he's fine because, like, he just has so many looks at goal that it works out. Some other notable high XG strikers would be Chicharito in the past, or right now Charlie Austin, Callum Wilson, and Benteke. Last year, Benteke was plus 8.2 on his XG. So he should have scored, on average, compared to the average striker, 8.2 more goals. That's a whole season for a lot of strikers. And so, yes, he's always been a high XG striker, but that's a lot of fucking goals to be wasting for a team like Palace who need every goal. To me, that's a big issue. That's a huge issue.
You're right, Chuck.
Chuck's gonna cry.
Fuck you and your stats.
Yeah, sorry.
Your logical arguments and fucking...
There's no one else, for the record, who was above plus 0.5 last season. Or plus 5, rather. And Benteke was plus 8. That's absurd. So it's one thing to be a high XG striker who needs a lot of looks at goal, and it's another completely thing to be someone who's just wasting the chances. Callum Wilson and Charlie Austin are having terrible seasons this year also. Charlie Austin's already plus 1.5. He's going to have to go on a very hot finishing streak to catch up to his own numbers.
And Callum Wilson as well.
Yeah, he's plus 1.1.
Okay.
But he's not having a bad season.
Scored a few chances, and the goal that he scored, he scored that ridiculous goal where I'm not going to say he ran through West Ham, he jogged through West Ham and then slotted it, but that's still not really an easy chance to put away, so...
Yeah, I was going to say, because I was thinking of bringing him in fantasy, so...
he has scored 2, so that's not bad, but he's at 3.1 for XG, so that's, to be plus 1 down
already, yeah.
this early on, and that just keeps building. Yeah. That's not great. Although notably, Mohamed Salah is also plus 1.1. And you can see that actually, there's a few notable chances that he missed from like inside the penalty box.
Yeah, he had an absolute sitter against Leicester this week.
Yeah, and that's going to be a super high XG chance.
Yeah, I say like sitter, but for him last year, you saw him put away that chance time after time after time after time.
He is that sort of player though, isn't he, though? Because, I mean, that is one of the reasons, again, in fantasy, to bring it back to FPL, he doesn't get bonus points, isn't it? Occasionally losing possession and shots off target.
Yeah, he sprays balls everywhere.
Mm.
Like, so often, it's like we said the other week, then he'll just sprint down the sideline, but then overrun it or just smash it into the stands. So,
yeah, although last season Mohamed Salah had one of the hottest scoring seasons of anyone in any of the big leagues in the last 10 years, he finished -7 on his expected goals. So he scored 7 more goals than the statistics would tell you, which,
wow.
Fair enough because he's a fantastically talented finisher. Players like Messi and Ronaldo often finish -5, -6.
Okay.
But he already is not replicating that. So we'll see if he goes on a hot streak. He can easily catch up to it, but he's plus 1.1 where he was -7 for the whole season last year. But the name that I was kind of burying the lead on, the other striker that I think people should be worried about and talking about, is the considered the other best striker in the league, which is Sir Harold of Kane. What are your thoughts on Harry Kane? I'm curious to hear them before I go into my stats rant. Is he still the best striker in the league?
I don't know whether the opinion of Kane gets skewed because he's the England striker, and he is, he's come through at Tottenham in the last few years. He's won 2 out of 3 of the last Golden Boots, and last year, only narrowly lost out to Salah when Salah had a ridiculous season, and Kane kind of then went unnoticed, even though he was. Salah got 34 in the league, and I think Kane was 31, 32. So, he's the focal point of that Tottenham attack, and I wouldn't be surprised, really, because he's the one who's up there with so many chances that he does spurn a few. I mean, you look at his history, apart from this year, he'd never scored a goal in the league in August.
Yeah, so people have been talking about, Harry Kane's going to have a great season. He finally broke his August duck, etc., etc. But I think that looking at Harry Kane's stats, there's a very notable event that happened in March, which is his ankle injury, where last year he got 30 goals, Salah had 32, no one else was above 21. So obviously the two of them were far and away the best. But Harry Kane went from being a Ronaldo-level, truly elite striker to what's been 6 months now, so a significant amount of time, where he has fallen to below Premier League average with his stats. Specifically, he used to take 6 shots per 90, and he's down to 2.4 since his injury. So he's just not shooting. And his XG for all of the last 3 seasons before this one were 0.75 and 0.7 and thereabouts. XG per 90, now he's 0.3 XG per 90. So if you push that forward, that is a goal every 3.5 games, which is terrible. And specifically, the thing that has happened is his speed. He just has no speed and explosiveness anymore since his injury, and so he's not taking shots from outside the box. In the 2 seasons before that, he was always top 5 for shots in the box, and now he is just not. So he went from being the type of striker who wildly overperforms XG because of his clinical finishing, especially from distance. Because obviously distance shots are low XG shots, but he was putting them away. And now he's only taking high XG shots, so he's turning into a high XG striker in the style of Benteke and Jesus, except the problem is that if you're going to be a high XG striker, you need to be taking shots a lot. And he has more than halved the amount of shots that he's taking per 90. So that, to me, that's a massive area of concern for Spurs and for England. He needs to adjust his game, and I don't see that. Do you guys see signs of him adjusting his game to the new reality of his physical body?
Yeah, I think if he truly is a great, then he'll be able to, overcome that, and it could just be, these injuries can take a lot longer to rehabilitate from than just the medical reasons. It's confidence, it's almost a fear that you get sometimes with not wanting to do something in case you have the same thing happen again.
It can take a lot longer when you don't have a break between a tournament and a league starting.
Yeah, exactly that as well. It's still mental, and we've said it tons of times that Tottenham can easily overrun themselves this year. And yeah, he came back from the tournament. He had a kid born, and then he was back in with the team 5 days before the season began, and then playing in the first game. So, I mean, that is what happens when your backup is Fernando Llorente. But
yeah, I mean, well, speaking of Fernando, to me, like, if he's not careful, he's going to be Fernando Torres 2.0.
Yeah.
Because he was someone who was fast and would shoot from distance, and then he had an injury, and he never adjusted his game to his body. Like, Harry Kane isn't going to have that time off. We keep saying he needs the time off, he needs the time off. Yeah. It's just not happening. And so if he's going to come... They rushed him back from injury. He played in the World Cup when he shouldn't have, and his World Cup stats were horrible. He won the Golden Boot, but, like, his underlying stats were not at all Harry Kane level stats.
No, but he won it off, 2-3 penalties,
and penalties
back heel from outside the box.
Yeah. Right. And so I think that he really needs to reevaluate the way that he plays. And he was saying that he sees himself more as a distributor and a creator than a finisher. Like, he said that in an interview last week. And so I think that he's recognizing that there's limitations to his body, but tactically they're not adjusting for that. And so he's either like, I could see him becoming Torres 2.0 or Wayne Rooney 2.0. Right? Which is like super dangerous. Yeah, right? Like, yeah. The stats are bad, and it's not like people will be like, oh, sample size, but like, it's been 6 months since March, and his stats have consistently been down. Like, half the XG per 90, half the shots per 90, half the high-intensity runs per 90, no more shots from outside the box when he was top 5 before that. Like,
yeah, if you're a Spurs fan, that's massively worrying.
But that's the thing, is I think Spurs fans aren't worried, and I think a lot of people aren't noticing this. It's like sneaking under the radar.
Well, he does get, for now, I think he gets a bit of a free pass. No one would have said he was going to win the Golden Boot. He's the England captain. Spurs fans, he's one of our own. For a while, he'll get a free pass.
And he still scored 2 goals and got an assist in his first 4 games this year. It's hard to tell because the whole team isn't really flying with Spurs. Obviously, they got caught out by Watford, who are performing really, really well at the moment. But they need to see more of that second half against Man United Spurs. That Lucas Moura can't just be the only one driving forward all the time. The whole team needs to kind of pick up, and I'm wondering if that kind of comes from the World Cup hangover, with so many players having deep runs in that.
Yeah, so I guess my question to you is, how do we reconcile the stats nerds being like, uh-oh, Harry Kane, watch out, versus the, like, eyeball traditional type fans who are like, he scored 2 in August, he's never scored. He just won the Golden Boot. He scored 30 goals last season.
He's on
fire. What are you guys complaining about? Yeah, exactly.
We let him fight to the death. we get him in an arena. We bring down the cage.
Maybe that'll be one of the features at the new arena, the new stadium.
Yeah, and we go fucking Thunderdome style.
The brewery, the cheese room, and the Thunderdome.
Yeah. At the Camembert 365.
Yeah. So I've got a bit of live Peterborough news if you want it. When we started recording, this is Tuesday night, obviously, when we started recording, Peterborough were 3-0 down at half-time to MK Dons, and we've just put in a 93rd minute equaliser.
Yay!
Fuck MK
Come on,
Dons.
the push! Well, that make it 4 wins, 2 draws now?
Oh, this is the Checker Trade Trophy, mate. It's the one they all want.
Oh, whoa. Hold the phone.
Yeah, we're pretty much. I think we're playing a second string. There's only two of our usual sort of starting 11s, but yeah. You
guys have a second string? You have enough players for that?
Fuck you, Oscar.
They just get blokes off the street, Oscar, off the street of Peterborough.
Stimmers' son is in goal right now.
Yeah.
Tell him if he loses that he has to go straight in the army.
Straight in the army, son.
All right, well, Peterborough are red hot, and another team that are red hot, to transition to our second topic, is Watford. Perfect record so far, level with Chelsea and Liverpool at the top of the table on points. Are they the real deal? Yes or
no? No, I don't think so. You can't deny that's an unbelievable start to the season from them. I think Watford always. I have it in my head that Watford always start the season well. Then they get to sort of Christmas time. Then their manager loses like 3 games in a row. Then they sack them. Then they get a new manager in, and then they end the season with like a relegation battle. That's kind of what Watford do, isn't it? Every year.
Yeah, that sounds about right for me. They get to December, they're like, oh, we're safe. Okay. And then they just fucking turn off when they could be pushing for like higher league spots. But your instincts are serve you well, to quote Star Wars. Watford are wildly overperforming their XG for very, very early in the season. They are already plus 4.25, which 4 goals over the course of the season is a lot, even for a team.
Wow.
So they are currently 11th for XG, even though they are in 3rd place in the table. But the one thing that is different this year, and that they have improved on, is their defense. They're actually the 2nd best defense in the league for XG conceded this year, and they're actually underperforming a little bit. And that's come against Burnley, who haven't been good, and Brighton, who are garbage. But Palace haven't been that bad, and they, I would expect, are aiming for a top half finish. And Tottenham, most notably, who are a legit good team. And to have the 2nd best defense against those 4 matches is not like anything to ignore. I think that's something worth looking at. What's your sense of their defense?
I mean, defensively, they've looked quite solid. Kabasele for them has looked really good and has been highlighted a couple of times actually on Match of the Day, just for kind of winning the ball and you know, overall they're quite a dogged, like a rough team. Like they fight, you know, they play that ugly football with, you know, Deeney just being an absolute battering ram up front that can battle with anybody and get them further up the pitch and get forward, and especially from like set pieces, which is what did them well against Tottenham. You know, both of their goals for Tottenham came from set pieces.
Yeah, Josh Holovas getting the assists.
And he's someone as well that from defence now is like wildly overperformed. I mean, everyone's gone on about him this year, especially in fantasy football. But you know, I don't think he'd scored a goal like ever before this season. I don't think, or like at least didn't last year. And now so far he's got, albeit 1 goal against Palace, which he openly admitted was a cross, 2 assists against Tottenham. I think he's had 2 more assists as well, so maybe 4 assists and at least 1 goal.
Yeah.
So I think they are overperforming, but hey, if they, you know, if it gets you off to a solid start, I don't say any of this to think that Watford are a crap team or whatever. I think they are good, and I just think they need some sort of stability that they haven't had for years with just the managerial merry-go-round. They've had, you know, sometimes having 3 or even 4 managers in a season, I think. I'm pretty sure when they got promoted this time, they sacked the manager that promoted them, hired a new one, and had fired that one before the Premier League season had started, their first season. And since then, it's just been over and over again. So, you know, it's good to see them get off to such a flying start. And you'd like to think they can keep it solid, especially if they are performing well as a defence. And Javi Gracia does, you know, marshal them well, and they look really disciplined, really disciplined in defence.
Yeah, I think so. But I think, are we kind of landing on the idea that, yeah, sure, they're top now, but they're going to regress back to the middle of the table where they kind of belong?
Yeah, I think so. Because if you look at it this way, are Watford going to win at least 4 games? Of course they are. So there's no reason for them not all to happen in succession. You know, Watford, very much like Palace, I know can be a very, very streaky team and have been in the past. Mm-hmm. You know, I go back to the season when Leicester won the league and Watford and Palace were both in the top 5 at Christmas, and then, you know, were really struggling towards the end of the year. That was after long like losing runs and just not picking up points anywhere, because it can happen. So I think they'll regress to the mean. There's every possibility that they could be like Burnley this year and, you know, overperform everything, because someone has to. You know, stats are there and they work as an average, but every so often they're going to get broken or kind of blown apart a bit, which we've seen with, you know, Burnley last year and Leicester a couple of years ago. So yeah, it's good for them, but I think, yeah, it will regress to the mean and they'll be a mid-table team.
Yeah, okay, so you brought up Burnley just now. I think that's a good place to go. They are another team that people would have expected to be mid-table, but they're currently in 19th. Yeah. Do we think that... So if we think Watford are hot, but they'll probably regress to the middle of the table, do we think that Burnley are a team that can sort of make up for lost ground and get to the middle of the table still?
I'd like to think so, but at the same time, the way Burnley play, you know, they're not an out and out attacking team. They've always been a sit back. You know, Dyche, much like I was just saying with Gracia with his defence, you know, Dyche marshals them well and plays solid and at times quite boring and traditional football. You know, the amount of games they won 1-0 or what have you last year, or only lost 1-0.
Yeah.
Because they scored 36 goals in 38 games last year. So they're not a wildly attacking or out-and-out team. So I just worry if they get into a situation where they do have to chase and try and make up ground, can they? Because if they keep playing that kind of defensive, and I don't want to say negative football because it sounds the wrong way, but
yeah,
not really free-flowing and attacking and going after games and going after teams by the jugular, well, what if they slip up again against another team and then it happens again and it happens again? You know, they can
absolutely.
They can easily still be in that bottom tier.
Yeah, I think they're a big concern for relegation. You know, we keep citing the 36 goals scored, and believe it or not, they actually overperformed their expected goals last year.
Wow.
They were third from bottom for expected goals, and they were -3. So even despite scoring such few goals, they somehow fucking overperformed those numbers. And even more, I would say, worryingly for Burnley fans, is that so last year we talked about how Man United were +15 on their expected goals allowed. And we were like, oh, that's clearly David De Gea having one of the best seasons ever. Burnley were very much the other team to ride a very, very good striker to massively overperforming their expected goals allowed. They were +13.2 on expected goals allowed. They finished 6th best in the league for goals allowed, but they should have been 12th. That should have been is a dangerous word.
Yeah.
You would on average expect them to have been 12th for goals allowed, which is not good. That's not even top half. +13. Just for reference, no other team, again, we said Man United at +15 and these guys at +13. No one else was above +5.
Oh, blimey.
That is insanely overperforming your numbers.
Yeah.
And they did the same thing the season before. Everyone talks about Burnley's defense being watertight. I think Burnley's defense is dependent on their really amazing keepers. And if your goalkeeper now is going to be Joe fucking Hart for whatever reason, even though those other two guys are still there, that's when you start seeing that regression to the mean and seeing that +13 goals allowed going away.
He even admitted he was tired in a press conference or a post-match. And if your goalkeeper's saying he's tired, I mean, geez, what about your outfield?
It takes a lot out of them. They're doing... I can't remember who it was now, but one of the players who's used to kind of playing across European competitions and going for Champions League and things like that. I think it might have been Rio Ferdinand or someone like that. I'm sure it was someone from the Man United era. He says, the first season you start doing that and travelling to other countries, it's incredibly tough to adjust.
Yeah, I bet.
And there's a lot of these guys that won't have done it before, and they won't be used to playing so many highly competitive games, travelling by plane to these different places, having a few days here and in different environments, because so much of sport, you know, the psychology is being what you're used to and having your traditions and having your free game rituals, and that all kind of goes out the window. And especially with something like the Europa League, where necessarily with their squad depth and their ability, they wouldn't really want to be in. Dyche even said, and it was kind of clear from his last team selection at Olympiacos, that it's it'll be good if we won, but we're okay with going out here.
Yeah.
And they were very unlucky in that game. It was an incredibly exciting game to watch. But I think the international break comes at the perfect time for them. I don't think they're going to have too many players that are going abroad and travelling and on international duty, so they can actually get a bit of a break and kind of re-establish themselves as what they are, refocus, and try and claw back some way up the table. You know, it's still very, very early days, and it's so hard, but they haven't looked good, and they have looked tired in every game, and they just need to pick themselves up, and I think they will, because they didn't look bad against Man United from the highlights I saw, and defensively they were still like very alert to some of the dangers. But against Man United, especially the way they've been, they would have really could have done with getting some sort of scrappy draw out of that.
I think that's definitely the narrative that's growing around them, is that the Europa League is draining them, and they don't have the squad depth and all that, but I don't actually agree with you on that for once. We disagree. Because their numbers just don't paint that same picture. Like, for last season, for the season before, or for this season. Like, they haven't been good. They're fourth bottom from the table for expected goals allowed. They're third bottom from the table for expected goals scored. Like, they are exactly in the relegation zone for their numbers. Mm-hmm. And last season, like we talked about, like no one has consistently overperformed their defensive numbers than Burnley for the last 2 seasons. And so I think we are finally seeing the actual Burnley. And I think they're going to get relegated, and rightly so. Unless the only sort of way out for them is dropping Joe Hart, putting Tom Heaton or Nick Pope back in there, and hoping that they pull off some miracles.
Yeah, well, Tom Heaton is basically back now. Nick Pope had basically the same injury as Tom Heaton, so I'm sure that was about a 6, 7, or even 8 month time out. It was from like dislocated shoulder or something like that.
Yeah, that's right, dislocated shoulder.
So Heaton, I'm sure, was back in team selection, and yeah, you just wonder, like, that's got to be curtains for Hart. Which his move from Man City to Burnley still baffles me, and for the reasons like he didn't want to be farmed out on loan, fair enough, but why go to a team with 2 goalkeepers who are pushing for England selection to basically go somewhere to be a third choice keeper like Burnley, where they're not going to be chopping and changing their keepers really, or playing like rotation as much. It was just a bit weird for me.
And he hasn't been good for years now. It's not like he had a bad season.
In all different teams and different systems, he's been shit.
Yeah, people in Italy would say he was shit. People at West Ham would say he was shit. Like, that last season at City even, like, there's a reason he got sent out. And it wasn't because Pep didn't like his style. It's because he was, like, genuinely bad. Mm-hmm. It's been years now since Joe Hart was a good goalkeeper. And so when you're a team like Burnley that depends on elite goalkeeping to overperform expected goals and be quote-unquote a solid defense, even though you're not actually a solid defense, you just have a good keeper, and now you're playing Joe Hart, like, that's gonna fucking collapse in a heartbeat. And that's exactly what we've seen. Like, they are exactly where they should be.
Yeah. I think Burnley's next 4 are really important for him. The next 4 in the Premier League are Wolves, then Bournemouth, then Cardiff, then Huddersfield. I mean, they've got to be looking at 6 to 9 points if they want to be still competing. They've got to get points out of them 4 games.
I'd even say they need to be keeping clean sheets as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think because they're not the team. They're not a team that's going to win 3-2. They're just not.
Yeah.
Because they don't score that much, so they really need to concentrate on clean sheets, which is why I said, and it's worrying that if they're chasing league positions and then also end up in the smaller scale of chasing games because they're 1-0 down, they're not the team to do that.
No, they, like, despite, again, like, they had that garbage goal-scoring season and somehow still managed to overperform despite only scoring 36 goals. Like, that is so insane. Bad.
Yeah. And speaking of garbage seasons, West Ham so far, like, it's absolutely shocking. Like, in the summer, I was seeing on Twitter a lot of West Ham fans going mental, saying that it was going to be shit and what have you. And I had no reason to believe it because they spent, nearly 100 million. They got in all these great signings. They got a Premier League winning manager. They got rid of David Moyes. And now they're looking worse for it.
I love that. That's universally seen as a positive now. Getting rid of Moyes is universally seen as a positive.
Huge upgrade. Upgrade.
Absolutely. But, oh my God, they just... In like flashes, and I thought from the first half of the Arsenal game, you might see them as a bit more of a cohesive unit, but they're just walking around. It's like the last days of Bilic all over again. They're just putting in no effort, and they look crap.
I desperately need them to be good because I picked them for our draft competition. But I will say, in their defense, that they have had a horrible, horrible starting schedule.
Yeah.
With
Liverpool. It's not good having Liverpool and Arsenal. And
low-key, Bournemouth have been one of the better attacking teams in the league. If you sort by XG created so far, Bournemouth are third place for this season. Man City, Liverpool, then Bournemouth. Above Tottenham and Chelsea. So, we talk about Liverpool and Arsenal, but Bournemouth are equally a difficult test, at least as so far this season, for XG. And then their fourth game, West Ham, was against Wolves, who are also having a really good start and look dangerous. And so I think we talked about Burnley's next 4 games being important to them. You look at West Ham's next 4 games, and they have Everton, Chelsea, which is going to be hard, Man United, which is going to be hard, and Brighton. And if they don't win those 2 matches against Brighton and against Everton, which Everton aren't a gimme match, they're going to enter 8 games into the season with, maybe 3 points?
They can join the Palace club. They're Palace last year. That's what they are, except they have scored some goals. So even that's not as shit as Palace last year.
Yeah, but the difference is that Palace last year were 5th or 6th for XG created. West Ham are 4th bottom for XG. And they are bottom for expected goals allowed. Those numbers are, again, where they should be. West Ham and Burnley are both in the relegation zone because that's what the numbers say. They're exactly where they should be.
Yeah.
And sure, they have technically underperformed their numbers. So, they underperformed their expected goals allowed by 2 goals. And they underperformed their expected goals scored by also 2 goals. So that's 4 goals in the other direction, both conceded and scored. But that being said, they're still, again, bottom for XGA and 4th bottom for XG. And sure, you give them a little bit of a pass for their schedule, but their schedule isn't getting better, and their numbers aren't good. Palace were 8 games in, but they were good numbers. These are horrible numbers.
Yeah, they don't have a decent run of fixtures until from the 14th game of the season.
Yeah.
So before then, there are managers that have been binned way before that. So Pellegrini might not even get to see that run of great fixtures, which is Newcastle, Cardiff, Palace, Fulham, Watford, Southampton, Burnley, Brighton. So I say good fixtures, but they're just not playing any of the top 6 for 8-9 games in a row.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, and I think, Oscar, you've spoken a lot about central midfields and how they're so important this year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I just think a central midfield of Carlos Sanchez, Jack Wilshere and Mark Noble is not going to get you fucking anywhere.
Mark Noble and Jack Wilshere getting significant minutes in a central midfield is not a recipe for success.
No.
I bloody love Mark Noble. Just my sort of player.
Mark Noble.
I really love him.
He's got a column in a newspaper this year, and he keeps having to write about how shit West Ham are. Fuck that guy's job. Fuck that.
He fucking loves that club as well.
Oh, you can't fault him. He's a great servant for him, and he just seems like a great guy. But he just needs to stop. He's not. He's a club captain, but he's not a good player anymore.
And he's never been a good player. Even in his prime when he was younger and getting about, he was just not good. So I don't know. I worry about West Ham. So is there any chance of them, betting Felipe Anderson into the squad, all the other players that they bought, starting to find their stride and work in the system with Pellegrini and improving, hopefully by week 14 when they have that nice run? If they win all of those matches or most of those matches or get some solid amount of points out of those matches, do they have any chance of getting back to the mid-table, or are they just fucked?
No, I think there are positives for them. I think Arnautovic has looked really good starting the year. Kind of his old ways of just being super aggressive and strong, but not in the violent way, and then being quite pacey. And I think there's, Felipe Anderson. I mentioned him last week, and I think he looks really, really good. And is that player who can? The others need to follow his example and be electric and driving forward and trying to go for it. But when you have a central midfield, like I said, of Noble, who he can't run anymore, he was waddling behind Callum Wilson the whole time when Wilson scored that goal against them.
Waddling.
And just wasn't making it back. And, Wilshere, he's probably injured right now. I don't even fucking know.
Let's assume so, yeah.
That's a pretty safe assumption.
Yeah.
Mark Noble's never been fast. Like, I remember years and years ago.
No, and if you're not fast in that position, you have to have really decent tactical awareness and placement and being able to read the game. And he doesn't seem to have that either.
Yeah, I don't know what his deal is. Like, why do you best him like him? Like,
what is he?
He dresses nicely.
He does dress nicely. He gets haircuts.
Yeah, he's got a good haircut. Haircut you could set your watch to, and he wears nice suits.
Yeah, playing Mark Noble in midfield makes about as much sense as eating a pack of cigarettes.
True story. So if you had to pick now, obviously 4 games in, who would you say your bottom 3 is, judged by what you've seen so far?
Cardiff.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We haven't even really mentioned them because they're just garbage. They're just not even anything to mention. Like, I'm just saying, I called it about wanting to see that game, Cardiff v Arsenal. A 3-2.
Yeah, that's
pretty fucking
game.
good.
Yeah.
And shocking for Arsenal, the fact they conceded 2 goals against them.
Yeah,
I wound up an Arsenal mate of mine who's like, it doesn't matter, we still got the win. It's like, no, you need to understand how fucking worrying that is, that you concede 2 goals to fucking Cardiff.
Yeah, you can't just brush that away.
And we did say last week they don't like it up them. And boy, did they not like it up them.
No.
That was really, really close.
Yeah.
Arsenal were lucky to get a result there. Like, they were not worth the goals that they scored.
No.
At all. Yeah, so I guess if I'm picking Cardiff, worst. And then Huddersfield haven't looked like doing anything of note.
Yep.
And probably I would say Burnley. Like, I think Burnley are going to go down this year.
Yeah.
I'd put money on that right now.
It's hard to see past those 3.
Yeah.
I mean, in the Predictor League, which is still open, and anyone can enter and just send us your predictions for table placements 1 to 20. We're up to about 22 people now, I think, as well.
Ooh.
Pretty much every single person has Cardiff and Huddersfield in their bottom 3.
Do we?
I'm pretty sure I do, yeah.
Oscar, you don't.
Oh.
Yay!
Oscar went for Brighton, Cardiff and Wolves, so that's changed. 2 out of 3 of those
You must
have
be
changed.
struggling in that table at the minute then.
Oh, I'm in last place, I'm sure.
Oh, no spoilers yet. We're not
Okay,
giving the table away.
I don't know that I
until
am, I'm just saying.
Okay.
No, you are bottom.
Yeah.
No spoilers, but yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yeah, don't get too excited, Ian. We're not that much ahead of him.
I have United finishing like second, I think. So it's not good. It's not good.
But yeah, Ian, who would you say from what you've seen so far? Would you agree with Oscar that that's kind of the 3 worst performing teams so far, and that look like they can't really turn it around?
Yeah, I don't think Cardiff, despite what we saw, which they put up a great fight against Arsenal, but I don't think they have the quality. Certainly not in depth to go through the whole season. Huddersfield, I think, overperformed last year. I don't think they're gonna survive the season. I think West Ham will pull out of it. So I would go. I would agree. I think it's Cardiff, Huddersfield, Burnley. Yeah, I don't like to agree so readily, but I can't find an argument otherwise.
Do you want to throw another hat in the ring, maybe? Like another name out there? What about Newcastle?
Newcastle, I think if they need to sort their shit out desperately. And Southampton, even though they beat Palace at the weekend, the 2-0 flatters them. They weren't good. So I wouldn't count them out of being relegated. I don't really fear for Fulham or Wolves.
I was going to say, do we know anything about Fulham's numbers? Because I mean, they've been scored, or Mitrovic has been scoring, but is that overperforming? I've not really caught Fulham.
They are overperforming their goals scored by 1.5,
right,
and underperforming their goals allowed by a goal. So they're currently, if you look at expected points, which at some point I should talk about how expected points is a little bit of a broken model, but not right now. They are 6th from the bottom. So they're right in there.
Okay, and they're about where they are, because they're 13.
If anything, they're a little bit high.
Yeah, and everything's bunched up still because it's
of course.
it's the start.
Yeah,
of the
it's
season,
so early
so
on.
it's
Right.
Yeah. I think it's gonna. I think it's
games.
gonna be really interesting. I do. I don't think Cardiff are anywhere. I think Huddersfield will really struggle. But as for the last spot, it could go a number of ways. It really could.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I think you're right. I think it's going to be a very interesting season because Warnock said after the Cardiff Arsenal game, he said, well, we knew we weren't going to be able to hold out against them, and like he didn't say park the bus, but play that way against them. So we figured we may as well go for it and give our fans something to cheer for.
Fair enough.
So I'm all behind that. If they're going to go out in a blaze of fucking glory,
yeah, well,
then that will be exciting to watch every one of their games. It nearly did. They're just unfortunate defensively, and that's where their weakness is. So, yeah.
Chuck, you won't love this, but the numbers do not flatter Palace so far. Admittedly, sample size, but they are in 15th, and they would be 16th according to expected points. So,
not right, mate.
Great.
Above 18th is fine with me.
I still think they'll turn it around, but Benteke, man, Benteke's fucking killing you guys with those goals. But anyway, so we have slotted in the schedule right now to talk about the international fixtures coming up a little bit, but I think we're running a bit long. So we'll save that for next week's pod because we won't have any Premier League to discuss then anyway. So just keep an eye out for that. But that would bring us to the listener questions segment, Stingers.
Yeah, as you say, we are running a bit long. So what I think we'll do is we'll save the listener questions we've got for this week. Thanks for sending them in. And if you've got any more, let us know on Twitter at Miles Offside Pod and on Facebook, Miles Offside Podcast. But what I did want to say was about the social media angle. We did a little poll on Facebook a little while ago. So a couple of episodes back, Oscar obviously visited London and went to Stamford Bridge to watch Chelsea Arsenal. Now, there are a lot of finger gestures going on the Skype there. Come on. Right. So, and one of the things you purchased was a half and half scarf. And me and Chuck let you know that this was an absolute no-no. And you had no idea that culturally that was an issue over here. You were just buying it as a souvenir. You very eloquently put your case forward. Anyway, you put a poll on Facebook about whether it was a good souvenir or an abomination. And I just wanted to let you know that It's a Good Souvenir received 4 votes. And those 4 votes were from you and our 3 wives and girlfriends.
Oh, man,
so that was the only support you had.
All right. And the other listeners were all the gaff rats who were like, it's an abomination.
They were all, it's an abomination. Yeah.
Well, our listenership is overwhelmingly English.
Yeah, that might be true.
Or they're just overwhelmingly correct.
Yeah. I think that was more a poll
horrendous.
of are you English or not than is this scarf okay?
76% of people
and we
are.
found out that most of our listeners are English, so I'm okay with that. No, I stand by my purchase. I'm not sorry. It's hanging up on my wall. It looks fantastic. I maintain that if you went to a boxing match and you bought a poster that was like Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier, the date, the location, and you put that up, no one would bat an eyelash. And it's the same thing. It happens to be on a scarf, but it still says Chelsea versus Arsenal. It has the date, and it's hanging on my wall. So, I stand by it.
And I stand by it that you're wrong. So.
I just enjoyed the low numbers you got there.
Yeah, I think we put up a Twitter poll too, and it was equally against me. So
you should put a picture. You should put a picture on Twitter of your hung up scarf.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we'll leave the listener questions until next week. We've got some good ones, so we will save them. Thank you for bringing in your questions. But Chuck, do you want to take us through the Predictor League and what people can do? Because this is one of the last chances they'll have to enter.
Yeah, so this will be the second to last episode where we are pushing for entries. As I said earlier, we're up to 21 people now. It wasn't 22. I got overexcited. And literally all you have to do is the same as with the Twitter questions. Either send us a direct message or a tweet or a message on Facebook, just with where you think every one of the 20 Premier League teams will place. The winner will get a £50 or a £51 gift card.
52.
Oh, come
It's
on.
probably 50 because I think they do it. Maybe they do it in like set amounts. I don't know, but a £50 gift card to the club of your choice. It's free to enter as well. You literally have to do nothing, and you guys have obviously now had a bit more information about where teams are probably going to place or how they're looking. As Oscar said, he's 2 out of the 3 of his bottom 3 have already changed. In the event of a tie, whoever entered earliest will be the winner. It's the first week I've got that fucking right.
Fucking nails that, man.
I'm not going to lie, I practiced earlier. And now I fucked myself. So in the event of a tie, whoever entered the league first will be the winner. And closing date for entries will be the 15th of September, which is... What? Why are you laughing at me? You're doing the fucking emojis, aren't you? I knew it! I fucking knew it!
It wasn't me.
And now he's got the bleep machine out as well. For God's sake, I'd made it like 4 weeks without saying...
Oh, dear.
Yeah, and then after game week 5 is when we will be posting out the standings for the league on a weekly basis. If I figure out the spreadsheet wizardry, I could figure out how to share the file with all you guys who enter so you guys can check it whenever I update it, which I tend to do every week. And yeah,
Cool.
that's about it really, isn't it?
It's free money, isn't it?
Free money, innit? You don't even have to pay to enter. Next year, £700 to enter.
All right, well, that about does it for episode 13. So thank you for joining us. Send us your questions for next week. We're going to do a bit of a semi-mailbag episode, so we'll go through a lot of listener questions and take more time answering those. We will update you on the standings in the draft table competition. We'll talk some international break, maybe a bit of FPL since several of us are on our wild cards. And yeah, so look forward to that in episode 14, but thank you for joining us. So that's going to be goodbye from me, goodbye from Chuck,
Yeah, goodbye.
and goodbye
I don't know
from...
why I wave every time I do that.
You know they can't
Because
see
we
you,
don't
right?
end the... It's not like when we say goodbye and end the podcast, we all just turn our laptops off. So I don't know why I wave. Damn my British politeness.
Not something you'd usually hear out of Chuck.
No.
And goodbye from Stimson.
I'm off to the toilet.
Wait. Peterborough, penalties win or not?
Oh, I was hoping we'd get through it. No, we lost
Ah.
lost 6-5. Fuck MK Dons.
Fuck 'em. Fuck Milton Keynes, it's a shithole. No one's listening in Milton Keynes because their internet is so crap they can't get this. Bye!
See ya.